it doesn't surprise me that some people have not been able to get out of bed this morning. Despite the fact that we have a really terrific couple of presentations here this morning, and a wonderful opportunity for people in all different fields to talk about writing and publishing and working in the industry. We have Alison Kirk, who's commissioning editor for Ashgate Publishing, and I've worked very closely and happily with Alison over the years, so I'm delighted that she's here. And we also have Felicity Fester from Edward Elgar Publishing, and I'm also working with Edward Elgar. And Edward Elgar has been doing lots of work with Queen Mary and on collections and on series, so it's really a genuine pleasure to have both Alison and Felicity here. I will pass over to them, and they will present on their various experiences, various opportunities in the field, opportunities in publishing, and then there's a chance for discussion and questions, and also an opportunity for you also to move between the tables. There's plenty of chances to talk to people in other fields, have a chat to the various different people who are here. We've got a lot of people here from practice, from publishing, from creative and dramatic writing. We've got a wonderful mix of people, so do take the opportunity to chat to everyone. I'll hand over to Alison first, and then we'll take the discussion from there.
Okay. Thank you. Well, as Joe mentioned, I'm the publisher for law and legal studies at Ashgate Publishing. Before that, I commissioned textbooks at Pearson Education, and for a long time before that, I commissioned a combination of research monographs and textbooks at Routledge. I'm going to go through the process of finding and working.
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, sorry.
We can just pick up the mic, can't we?
I'm going to go through the process of finding and working with a publisher. I'll follow a simple chronological path, starting with how to find publishers and vice versa, and what decisions an author needs to take before approaching a publisher. I'll talk about the process of putting together a good book proposal and discuss what the publisher needs to know and why they need to know it. And finally, I'll talk about the review process and how publishers come to the final decision. My experience is that most commercial publishers are looking for broadly the same information. The university presses work in a slightly different way. So how does an author choose a publisher? First thing might be to talk to senior colleagues or other people in your department who published in your area. You might want to go to conferences and talk to other people working in your areas there, so you can get a broad range of views on how people have found the experience. But also bear in mind that opinions will vary depending on personal expectations and experiences. Senior academics might want to steer you towards publishing with an academic press, a university press, sorry, which is fine. The only thing to bear in mind is that they usually take slightly longer in the decision-making process, which you might want to bear in mind if you're working to a particular time frame. Another thing to consider is peer reviewing. Most commercial publishers should review just as extensively as the university presses. This is very important because it will be taken into consideration when assessing your publication record, and also some of the libraries won't stock a book if they know that it's been published by a publisher who doesn't peer review. If the publisher doesn't review the proposal, then check that they're going to review the manuscript so that you know in advance that they are going to review it. Another thing to do is look at similar books in the area and see who the publisher is. If you're writing a research monograph, it's a waste of your time and publishers if you send the proposal to a textbook publisher because they're not going to be interested in it. It also avoids giving the impression that you don't know the audience that you're writing for. There's probably a higher chance of success if you can submit the proposal for a series, because that shows that the publisher is actively commissioning in that area. If you know the series editors, it's a good idea to go to them directly because they'll have a big say in what gets published within the series. When you're thinking about who to submit to, most publishers will assume that you've sent it to a number of publishers at the same time. However, some have a policy where they don't want you to do that, so it's always best to check the website and find out in advance. If the publisher knows that it's gone to other publishers, it may well speed up the process because they'll try to turn it around as quickly as possible. And it also means that you'll get more feedback on your proposal, which can be very useful. The exception to this is where a publisher contacts you directly with an idea, a specific idea for a particular book. It's usually considered per form if you then take that to another publisher. It doesn't happen very often, but that happens occasionally. publisher sends you a contract, it won't be open-ended, because most publishers try to get the contracts out as quickly as possible so they have a competitive advantage. And they won't want to give that away by waiting indefinitely for you to make a decision on it. Also, if you do accept a contract, it's courtesy to let the other publishers know, because they've invested time and money in having the proposal reviewed, and you never know, because you might want to publish with them sometime in the future, so it's best to keep them informed. You should also look at which publishers go to the major conferences in your area. Apart from anything else, it gives you a good idea of the sort of effort they're going to put into marketing your book. Try to arrange in advance to meet with the commissioning editor, because that way you can get immediate feedback on the idea. And also, if you have a contact, it's better than just sending a proposal and emailing out of the blue. You should also look to make sure that the publisher has good international reach. The biggest market for English language books is the US, so ideally you want a publisher who has their own office in the States. Most good ones do. Some may co-publish with an American publisher. The only problem with that is that you're not guaranteed that they will accept your book into the list, so you could be left without a distributor in the States, and you may want to confirm that in advance. If your book is based on a particular country or region, it's also worth checking that the publisher has distribution within that region, because, for example, in India, some publishers are better represented than others. Likewise, you should check if your book is likely to have particular appeal to non-English language speaking regions. Check in advance that the publisher is prepared to sell the foreign language rights and will make efforts to do so. So once you've decided which publishers to contact, there are a few points about what you should do before you contact them. First of all, most publishers have guidelines, and they're generally looking for broadly the same information, but it's worth checking that you supply the information that they're looking for. It's a waste of time for everybody if you have to go backwards and forwards asking for further information. You should also make sure that you tailor your approach email for a particular publisher, because it's very irritating to receive a proposal that's addressed to another publisher. Similarly, ensure that your work's accurate and grammatically correct as far as possible. Inaccuracies and general sloppiness don't inspire confidence, and it's quite possible that the proposal will be rejected automatically. You should also try to supply 1 or 2 draft chapters. Not necessary usually to supply a complete manuscript, but most publishers will want to see some sort of draft material. If the work needs to have more work done to it, it's better not to send it in, because it will just attract negative reviews. A better alternative would be to submit sample published work in that area. Also, commercial considerations. Most publishers, even the university presses, have a minimal sale that they need to be able to meet in order to justify publication. So something that's very narrow or based on a single country study will be more difficult to get accepted, just because it's harder to make it commercially viable. Print runs these days for a research monograph could be as low as 300 copies. So we're not looking for very high sales, but with library budgets always being cut, it's worth bearing in mind. Conversely, don't feel that you need to write a bestseller, or don't try to oversell your book. Most publishers will have a good idea of the market for the book anyway, and if they think that you have very high expectations, they're going to get nervous that they won't be able to manage those expectations, so they may well pass on the book. On the other hand, if you are writing a textbook, you should be very clear that you think there are student numbers for it, and don't undersell it when you're trying to pitch to textbook publishers. If you're thinking of publishing your thesis, most publishers, well, a lot of publishers won't accept a straight thesis, but most will consider one that's been considerably rewritten. Contrary to what you might think, it actually helps if you have published part of your research in journals or as book chapters, because that shows it's a good mark of quality if it's been accepted, your research has been accepted for refereed journals. On the other hand, you don't want to have published too much of it,